Good evening and welcome to Rediscovering the Truth Bible Study. I'm your host and teacher, Marquita Smith. Tonight, we are going to look at some tough situations. The topic for tonight is when problems arise. We're going to be reading out of Proverbs chapter 14, Genesis chapter 34, and Acts chapter 6. As we continue our study of the whole Bible, we take one chapter out of the Torah, which is the first five books of the Bible, the Law of Moses. We take one chapter out of the Tanakh, out of the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. So that's going to be the prophets or the writings. We take a chapter out of there. And then we take one chapter out of the Brit Hadashah, which is the New Covenant. And we read those three chapters together so that we see the consistency of God's character and His will and His word. Because a lot of times people believe that the Bible is inconsistent, and it's just because we read it outside of the context of the Jewish cultural perspective. So we're reading the complete Jewish Bible so that we get an understanding of the God of Israel and His consistency from the beginning of scriptures to the end. And so again, we're starting in Proverbs chapter 14. We're going back to the Proverbs. We were in Psalms for a while, but we're back in the Proverbs in chapter 13 where we left off. So tonight we're in chapter 14. And when we look at problems arising, basically what I'm going to do is contrast for you the way God's people address problems as led by His Spirit and in the time of faith, and contrast it with the world or even God's people who are in a place of doubt and fear or not being led by His Spirit. Because all of us can have moments where we do things God's way, and then we have other moments where we don't. Like either we hit a serious challenge, we hit an obstacle, we become afraid, and because of that, we don't handle things the way God would have us to handle them. And that can be any one of us at any given moment of time. But we want to know what God's will is, and we want to understand His character. Because there are times when we can be in moral dilemmas because problems are rising up before us, and we really don't know what God would have us to do because the situation itself is so challenging. And so we want to look at these scriptures, and we're going to get some real revelation in some really tough situations as to how God would have us to handle the situation. Now, Proverbs 14, there is a lot of wisdom here. Starting with verse 1, it says, "Every wise woman builds up her home, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands." Now, throughout the course of my marriage, the Lord has given me this scripture a lot of times to help me to choose wise words in the heat of an argument or in the face of a challenge, because He knows that with my words, I can tear down my own household. With my words, I can build my household up, regardless of what the other people do, what my spouse does, what my children do, what other people do who come to my house, visitors or whatever. Regardless of that, I can choose His wisdom and build up my house, or I can reject His wisdom, act out of emotion, anger, and build and tear down my own house. And so that scripture is certainly not about the physical building of the house. It's about the way a woman stewards her home. This could be true of a man as well. But what to engage in, what battles to pick, what battles to stay away from. How to use that soft tongue to quiet an angry environment. Just having that wisdom and self-control and character of God to diffuse a volatile situation, or to walk away from something that could be potentially harmful to your own heart and the hearts of those you love, those people in your household. This is what the scripture is all about. And so we see the difference. The wise woman is building up, the foolish woman is tearing down. And what's important to note here is that it's her own house. A lot of times we don't think of the way we treat our children, the way we treat our spouses, it's our house we're affecting. But it is. When we sow discord into our spouses and our children or other family members, we're tearing down the place where we live. We're going to make it less comfortable, less loving for ourselves. Like it becomes a bad environment for ourselves. So not only are we harming those around us, but we're doing a disservice to ourselves too. Because if I sow rightly into the people around me, it's sowing into a right environment in my home as well. Verse 2. A person with upright conduct fears Adonai, but a person who's devious scorns Him. Now, that fear of the Lord is going to guide my actions, because the people in my life, they are His children too. And though they may not be behaving like Him in certain moments, if I remember that's God's child, that's God's daughter, that's God's son, I will be a lot more careful with how I treat them, about the words that I say, my character as demonstrated before them. I'll be careful. I'll be a lot more careful about that. But if I forget that they belong to God, or if I just don't fear the God that created them, I don't care. God's not going to do anything good or bad. That's actually scripture. He says, you people think to yourselves, God won't do anything, either good or bad. When I think that, I'm going to be a lot more reckless with my words and with my actions. I'm going to do a lot more damage because I don't think that there's any repercussions, especially not from God. So I don't either think he exists, or I don't think he cares, or I don't think he's going to act. But knowing that he's going to act, knowing that he does see, knowing that he does care, will cause me to be a lot more careful, a lot more thoughtful about what I do, and knowing that I will reap what I sow. What I put out there is what I'm going to get back, either in that very moment or even in the future. And so it becomes important that I recognize that. And that is a biblical concept, the reaping and the sowing. A lot of people see that, as karma coming from Buddhism, but I want to let you know the biblical concept is old. That concept of reaping and sowing is very old, because the Lord himself instituted that we would know that whatever we sow, that's also we're going to reap. That is in the Tanakh, and that's also it's throughout the scriptures. Yes, ma'am.
Earlier last weekend on Saturday, we were talking to a couple of people about God, and I said that a certain person, whatever life they live, is a way to child of God, and the person was like, well, how can you be a child of God? But you're not a believer. And that's what I said to them too.
Gotcha. Because he created
that he created them.
Right.
It was really interesting to see someone react that way, because some people really believe only if you believe in God, then you are a child of God.
Right.
But regardless if they believe, like you said, their actions, they really are a child of God.
That's right. It's like God made them. And honestly, when we think about it that way, this group, they're children of God. This group of people, because they do this, they're not children of God. It gives me a license to mistreat people. You see what I mean? We wonder, how can Christians beat up gays, and how can they, be anti-Semitic and or racist, or how can believers do that? Well, it's because of that very thing. That if I can relegate to a certain group, you're not children of God, you know what I'm saying? Then I can disregard them and I can treat them however I want to. I can let my flesh come forward because I have deemed them enemies of God. When I don't know what's in their heart, and I don't know how he views them. You see what I'm saying? I think I know, but I don't know. I see dimly through a glass. He sees fully. I don't know what's happening when they go home. If they're talking to him, they're crying out to him, if he's got his eye on them, because he knows one day they're going to come to him. We don't know. Either way, I know he made them. I know he designed them. And it's best that I treat everybody like his child, because he did make them all, and he knows their situations. And God gives grace to whom he wants to give grace, and he shows mercy to whom he wants to show mercy. We don't know what people have been through that have caused them to be where they are. Like a lot of people who deal with challenges have been abused, they've been molested, they've been abandoned, and God saw all of that, and he knows. So he gives them some grace, because he knows what has happened to their soul, which was not through their own fault, is causing them to malfunction. He knows all about it. Doesn't mean he excuses sin at all, but he gives grace because he himself is the one drawing them out in his timing and in his way. There's nothing that we know anything about, nothing we can control. And so as long as I keep my little self out of it and I treat them like a child of God, then I'm in a good place with my Father. But when I relegate them to not being children of God, they're enemies, they're sinners, they're whatever, then I come outside of godly character, because I begin to then act according to my flesh in relationship to them. And that does not bring glory to him. And even if they were thinking about becoming a believer, I just kill that, because now in his name, I'm mistreating them. I'm calling them something painful. You know what I mean? I'm tearing down God's house when I'm supposed to be building it up. You see what I'm saying? The wise one is going to build up. The foolish one is tearing down. Good. From the mouth of a fool sprouts pride from the lips, but the lips of the wise protect them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. The foolish person, blah, 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 blah. The wise person is then going to speak words that is going to bring honor to themselves and honor to others. So you never know. The people you treat well, you don't think they're believers, they may want to bless you in the future. You never know the situation you're going to be in, because you're so good into them. You know what I mean? That happens all the time. They could want to be your next boss. You know what I mean? You don't know. But that wise person, the words of wisdom that they speak is a shield, a protection to them because people respect wisdom. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, people respect wisdom. You have an understanding that other people don't have. And if you're saying that's coming from your God, I'm not going to look into that. Or, whatever. People respect wisdom, and wisdom is a blessing to all people. Doesn't matter who it is. Verse 4. Where there are no oxen, the stalls are clean, but much is produced by the strength of an ox. Now, I love the complete Jewish version because in other versions it says, where there's no oxen, the manger is empty, which led me to believe, okay, if nobody's working, there's not going to be anything produced. There won't be any fruit, there won't be any harvest, there won't be any money if nobody's working. But God showed it to me even deeper when I read it in the complete Jewish. And it says the stalls are clean. Now, me being a perfectionist, I always want the stalls to be clean. You know what I mean? Clean them out. Get it clean. Make it happen. Put it in order. But what the Lord has shown me is that where there is work being done, things aren't going to be just neat and tidy and clean. But there will be a great harvest. Does that make sense? And it's like if you want the harvest, you can't want it to be neat and tidy and clean. The only time it's neat and tidy and clean is if nothing is there. And then really, you're in lack. You're empty. And that's not what you want. You want something there. If I want my life to be neat and tidy, then there can't be any humans in it. Because as soon as a person enters into my life, it's no longer neat and tidy. You see what I'm saying? No, the stall is clean, but it's empty.
No, because I'm laughing because I had a industry week, and then I think after like 3 days of this week, I was like, God, I love you. These humans are getting
I'm sure all of us have said that. No, I don't know you. These humans are getting on my nerves. We probably all said it. But he's like, but without them, there's no harvest.
I know.
You see what I mean? There has to be harvest. So you got to get out there. Have the strength to relate to other people. Have the strength to keep going. Have the strength to continue to engage. You know what I'm saying? Don't cut them off. You know what I'm saying? That's going to produce a harvest. And we're going to look at that when we get to Genesis and even in Acts. It's going to produce a harvest. In any given moment, we can cut people off. And some of us are good at that. Oh, cutting you off. Cut them off. Don't talk to you no more. Cut you off. You're not in my contacts. Bam. And blocked you. Whatever. We just get rid of people because they brought, too much havoc as far as we're concerned into our lives. But there can be no harvest then if we keep doing it. There'll never be a harvest in relationships. There'll be a harvest in finances because wealth comes through relationships. We never get wealth by ourselves. You know what I mean? Even if I have a great product, I have to sell it to people. So that means I have to still interact with people. Either way, whatever type of harvest I'm looking for, if I even want inner healing for myself, as I rub up against other people, that's how I get that my iron sharpened. That's where I realize where I need healing. Because people keep touching me in that same spot. And when they touch me in that spot, I realize, okay, clearly something's wrong with me. Because whenever people do that, it hurts. Exactly. So something's going on. And they're all looking at me strange, like I had an unusual reaction. You see what I mean? So clearly, I need healing right there. I can't get a harvest of healing if there's no people in my life. I can't get in my life. I can't get deliverance because I want to know what I need deliverance from. As far as I'm concerned, when it's just me, myself, and I'm fine. I'm perfect. I don't bother me. You see what I'm saying? It's when I'm relating to people that I find out, okay, I'm wounded. I'm flawed right there. I'm impatient. I could use a little character development in that area. You see what I mean? It's when I'm with people that all of that's going to be revealed, and then I can go to God for more sharpening. If He can make me better. Verse 5. An honest witness will not lie, but a false witness lies with every breath. And this is just speaking of a trend. If I'm willing to lie and I start lying, in order to cover that lie and validate that, I'm going to lie again. And so it's just going to keep, once I become a false witness, I stay a false witness. Because I got to remember what I lied and say it before, and then I got to tell this lie to match up with that lie, and it's a cycle. It's a terrible cycle. But when I decide to be honest, I'm not going to lie. And when I choose not to lie, I'm taking consequences that come. I'm going to take those consequences. And that is going to increase my integrity because if I know I'm going to tell the truth, then I'm going to be more likely to do the right things because I'm not going to want to lie later about everything wrong. You see what I mean? So it's a good virtue. It's a good virtue to develop, to be honest. And this is not brutally honest because that's a world term where people are honest for the purpose of hurting other people. It's not what I mean. I'm talking about honest about myself, not honest in accusing others or judging others, because that's not really honesty anyway. It's subjective. I'm talking about honest about myself, because then that is objective because it's about me. You know? Verse 6. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge comes easily to someone with discernment. A scoffer, a mocker, a person who makes fun of everything or rejects every idea or pokes holes in every argument, is not going to be a good student, because really they're not listening. They're looking for what they can tear down. Does that make sense? So they never really learn anything, because before a teacher can ever establish a foundation upon which to build their wisdom and their knowledge, they've already torn all that stuff up with their little arguments. You see what I'm saying? And you can never grow and learn like that. But if you really want to learn and God gives you discernment, then you let the teacher keep building. Even if you say, okay, I don't think that's right. You discern that something might be off about that. You keep listening. You store it up. You keep listening. And then a lot of times the questions will answer themselves. You know what I mean? Or if you do further study, you'll find out maybe the teacher was wrong about that one thing, but it doesn't mean everything the teacher taught was off. And now that you found this key component, now everything makes sense to you and you got full wisdom. You see what I'm saying? The wisdom on the topic is full for you. It's not lacking. That's because I'm using my discernment instead of mocking. Because two people can both figure out something sounds wrong about this. But the discerning one is going to store that up, keep listening. The mocker is going to immediately blast, immediately interrupt, immediately question. And now, a lot of times, teachers receive that as disrespect. It's not just you asking a question. Instead, you're questioning what I'm teaching. You're questioning my authority. And that's disrespectful. And so now you shut down the whole educational process, because you were scoffing, you were mocking, and you weren't actually trying to listen. You weren't actually trying to hear. This is why teachers kick students out of their classrooms. A lot of times students don't know what's going on. Why did you kick me out? Because you were interrupting everybody else's educational experience. Whether you were right or wrong, nothing was able to be built, because all I'm doing in my class is arguing back and forth with you, debating back and forth with you. And it's disrupting the educational process because I'm not able to build. Again, the fool is tearing down, the wise one is building. See, we're going to keep seeing that theme. All right. Verse 7. Keep clear of a fool, for you won't hear a sensible word from him. The wisdom of the cautious makes him know where he's going, but the folly of fools misleads them. Guilt offerings make a mockery of fools, but among the upright there is goodwill. Now let me explain to you what that means. Don't be around foolish people, because eventually you'll start listening to that mess that's coming out of their mouth. A lot of times we think we won't. When you stay around it long enough, it's going to penetrate. It's going to get in there. And you don't want that. You know, we watch foolish cartoons where they've got the family structure is all messed up. Dad's an idiot. The daughter is promiscuous. Whatever. The mom is degenerate. Whatever. Something crazy going on. That does infiltrate our psyche. We think it does. Oh, that's so funny. It's not funny. I'm watching foolishness, and the foolishness is now, it's actually infiltrating me, and my own ideas about things in life are now being influenced by this foolishness. And so it becomes important that I don't just let foolishness speak into me, because anything I watch or hear, anything I interact with is speaking into me. It's changing my worldview every moment. Or watching this teaching, your worldview is being influenced. And if you think that I'm a fool, you shouldn't be watching the teaching. Like, that's a reality. You should watch the teaching of people that you think are wise. Like, that becomes very important. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but you got to identify wisdom in a teacher. When you see the wisdom, then you go, okay, I want to learn more from this person because I identify wisdom. But if you see folly, you identify folly, you see a consistent pattern of folly, don't receive it. Don't continue to receive that. Now, the wisdom of the cautious makes them know where they're going. Again, I'm testing everything. I'm trying everything. Do you believe Yeshua is the Messiah? Are you professing that he is fully man, fully God? Okay, wait, you didn't. Oh, I might need to back up from your teaching. See, I'm wise and I'm cautious. I'm paying attention to what's going on. I'm listening to what you're saying and what you're doing. I'm just using this teaching as an example, but there's so many other examples. A lot of times, believers in classes where they have a professor who's an atheist, a professed atheist. Oh, we're just learning about science. It's not going to affect me because they don't believe in God. Are you kidding? What they teach you, the scientific foundation that they teach you, is going to come from an atheistic perspective that is going to completely deny God, and it's going to affect you and the way you view science for the rest of your life. Very important whose teaching you're sitting under. It's a big deal, especially if that's your field that you're going to go into. it's going to make a difference. And you may not believe it, but it will. So those people who are cautious about that, they're wise. The people who pay attention, listen to everything, they're discerning, very wise. And those things are going to get them going in the right direction, in the place that they want to go to. But a fool is going to be misled because they're receiving all types of stuff and they're not discerning, and it's just leading them here, there, and everywhere. Lastly, verse 9 says, the guilt offering make a mockery of fools. And the reason it says that is because a foolish person in the Bible account is not just a person who is ignorant, without wisdom or knowledge. It's also a person who mocks God, who is not a believer, who denies God's existence. And so a person like that, if they're making a guilt offering, if they're saying, Lord, forgive me for my sin, because believe me, atheists and agnostics do ask for forgiveness, especially if they think they're about to die or something like that. People call out to God all the time. Chaplains and priests often say that there are no atheists in foxholes. I know my life is threatened. If you're up there, God, keep me alive. You know what I'm saying? People do that all the time. But they're not going to really repent, because they really haven't believed in him. They'll say, oh, if you get me out of this, I won't ever do blah, blah, blah again. If they really don't change their hearts to submit and believe in him, they're going to keep doing it. They're not going to actually stop. You know what I'm saying? They don't have no fear of God. They don't have any fear of God within themselves or actual belief that he's there, a belief that has a firm foundation. So they're not actually going to change. So to give a guilt offering or to say, Lord, I'm sorry for my sin, or forgive me for this, or if you get me out of this, I'll never do this again, it's going to be short-lived because they won't repent. And so it doesn't matter, even if God does forgive them for it, they're going to do it again. You see what I mean? So that's the foolishness. The wise goes, you forgave me, you got me out of that situation, help me not to do it again. Not that we're capable, because we're not capable of changing our own hearts. And it makes it even harder then for us to change our own behavior. But we can ask God to help us. And that person is a believer, making them wise. Because the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So I believe God, I'm wise, so I'm asking for help. I'm not trying to do it myself. I'm asking for help. Verse 10. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger can share its joy. Now that is going to speak to humans and where we are as people, in that you may think you understand a person's situation, but their situation is never going to be exactly like yours. Like even if brothers and sisters grow up together in the same household, you think you know them, well, you grew up just like I did. But the way you guys experience life is still perceived differently. So what may have been okay for you may have been painful for them. And what may have been joyful for them may have been unpleasant for you. And so it's important to recognize that other people have other perspectives. And that perspective is what's going to affect their heart, whether it was bitterness or whether it was joy. You see what I mean? And that I know that my heart and your heart are not exactly the same. And that helps when I'm in arguments as well. So if I want to use wisdom and you tell me I hurt your feelings, there's no need in me going into my logical place and say, well, that was not what I meant to do, and you should not be hurt by that. It doesn't even make sense, because I'm speaking about your heart, which I don't have. And you're telling me that your heart was hurt, and your heart knows its own bitterness. And my heart can't share your heart's joy, so then I need to seek you to find out how your heart interpreted my actions. And if your heart interpreted painfully, I got to take responsibility for that and try to restore and repent to you, so that so our relationship can be healed and refreshed. Just because I wouldn't have been offended doesn't mean I didn't offend. That makes sense. Verse 11. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. And that's because of the wisdom. The upright are going to be using God's wisdom, and so he'll protect. And their wisdom will cause them to use good strategy. Verse 12. There can be a way which seems right to a person, but at its end are the ways of death. And that's our key scripture for today, because it's important to know that. Now, a lot of times we think this is the right way. I feel this is the right way. This is what I want to do. It feels strong in my heart, but I can be completely wrong, and it can be leading me to death. It can be slowly killing me. And God himself has to reveal that, because a lot of times we delude ourselves. We don't know we're doing it because we're deluded. But our own heart's desires, our sin, our pain can delude us. And all of us are subject to that. No one is exempt. As soon as you think you're exempt, you're already deluded. You're deluded by that thought that you're exempt from being deluded. Does that make sense? So that's why we seek God and we present our hearts to God and let him tell us what's going on in our hearts. Let him tell us if our heart's desires are pleasing to Him, and if the thoughts of our hearts, the meditations of our hearts are acceptable in His sight. Only God can tell us those things, and so we have to release that. Verse 13. Even in laughter, the heart can be sad, and joy may end in sorrow. That goes right back to the other one, just letting us know that there can be times of joy and pain, and they can be interchangeable, they can be mixed. Sometimes can be bittersweet, something can be joyful to me and painful to you. Just recognizing that every life is going to be filled with both of them. And the wisdom of knowing that brings us to a place of shalom, where we're not seeking eternal joy and bliss in this earth, because that would lead us again to a path of destruction, because we don't want to ever feel pain. And pain is a necessary part of life. It directs us and shows us where things can be improved, where things can be developed. Or even sometimes it gives us our calling and our mission in life, where we feel pain. I feel pain for this group of people. I feel pain when this happens. That will give me a zeal to try to do something, to become active in my community. Those are very important things. Verse 14. A backslider is filled up with his own ways, but a good person gets satisfaction from himself. Now, it's saying the same thing. That a backslider means a person who turned away from God. They were with God, then they turned away. That person is going to get the fruit of their own actions. But likewise, a good person is going to get the fruit of their actions. And the fruit of a good person's actions is going to be satisfaction. They'll be satisfied because they did the right thing. There's this wonderful feeling that comes from, man, I chose the right thing that time. I did the right thing. There's a good satisfaction from that. Verse 15. One who doesn't think believes every word, but the cautious understands his steps. Back to that wisdom, that discernment, really paying attention. Verse 16. A wise person fears and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and overconfident, meaning they don't take warnings. They're not rightly discerning a situation. They think they can do anything. Nothing's going to happen to them. That's foolish. It's foolish for any of us. Even as believers, oh, God's going to protect me, and we just run headlong into danger that He's not sent us into. Very foolish. Very foolish. Verse 17. He who is quick-tempered does stupid things, and one who does vile things is hated. We're going to see that in Genesis. That quick temper, moving quickly, moving based off my emotions. We do reckless and stupid things when it happens. And it's important that we recognize that that is foolish. That is folly. God would not have us to do that. He wants us to think. Because if we don't, people will hate us. Even people who love us will hate us, because they have to deal with the consequences of our recklessness with us. We don't deal with it alone. When we behave that way, our family members, our loved ones, they suffer the consequences with us. We bring the trouble on our own household. And we're going to see that in Genesis tonight. Verse 18. Thoughtless people inherit folly, but the cautious are crowned with knowledge. And that just continues in the theme we've been talking about tonight. The evil bow down before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Meaning wicked people will bow down at the gates of the righteous. Now we know that doesn't always happen in this life, but the proverb teacher is speaking of the next life. Because you may have had a challenging life here, but if you strove to be righteous and you sought God and you let Him lead you, the wicked one day will bow down before you, and they'll be sitting at the righteous gate, the gate of righteousness, and won't be able to come in, but you will already be inside. And so these things may not happen in our lives here on the earth, but they will happen, and we've got to stand firm on that. Verse 20. The poor are disliked even by their peers, but the rich have many friends. And that's just speaking of the social acceptability of wealth. And the fact that people look for people with resources. They want to befriend them because they want to take part of those resources. And the Proverbs writer is not saying that that's a good attribute or good character model, but he's saying it is a reality. That you would know that. Even if you're a good person, you fall on hard times, don't expect people to be there with you. You would think, this one's going to love me, this one's going to stand with me. A lot of times it doesn't happen. The very people you thought they were going to stand with you, they desert you. And you are left alone because they are afraid of your situation. They're afraid that your lack, your challenge is going to befall them as well. So they just pull away as far as they can, because a lot of times people are really afraid to be in a place of lack. Verse 21. He who despises his fellow sins, but he who shows compassion to the humble is happy. We're going to see that in Genesis 2. When we show compassion, it's going to bring peace to me. But if I despise somebody else, I'm going to take myself into sin. Even if they deserve it according to my standard, I'm bringing myself into sin. I'm bringing sin upon myself. by despising them. Because despise leads to hate, and hate leads to murder. And that is a sin. Even if it happens only in my heart, it's still a sin. We're going to see that in Jesus. Won't those who plot evil go astray? But grace and truth are for those who plan good. And I love that because in in John, John the Immerser tells us that grace and truth came through Messiah Yeshua. You know what I mean? So it's so important that we get that. That those who plan good, we get the grace and truth that comes through Messiah. Because our hearts are right, and it's because He made them right. Not any righteousness of our own. He gave us a right heart that we would make right plans. And He comes to us with that grace and truth as a result of us submitting to them. In all work there is profit, but mere talk produces only poverty. You'll see that in Acts. You got to take action. It's going to produce fruit. Even if the fruit is not the best fruit, because it produced some fruit, you can evaluate it, do something different in the future. But if you don't do anything, you never grow. You never get any type of harvest. You got to do something. Even if that action later on has to be reevaluated and do something different in the future, you got to take some action because that is going to give you some fruit. Verse 25. A truthful witness saves. Oh wait, I think I missed verse 24. I did. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the folly of fools is just that, folly. Meaning fools don't get a crown. But wisdom brings wealth. And it does for various reasons, but it's going to give you strategy, revelation, and the favor of people, all of that. Wisdom is important. A truthful witness saves lives, but a liar misdirects judgment, which is dangerous. So if I'm telling the truth, I'm going to save that person from the punishment because they weren't guilty. Or I'm going to get the guilty person punished so that they don't hurt people again. So I'm saving by being honest. When we report things to the police, those type of things, we are being honest and we can save a life. But if I'm lying, then justice is going to be perverted. It's going to be tainted. People won't get the justice they deserve, or the people who are victims won't get the justice that they deserve because the truth has not come out. Verse 26. And the fear of Adonai is powerful security. For his children, there will be a place of refuge. The fear of Adonai is a fountain of life, enabling one to avoid deadly traps. That's why the fear of Adonai is powerful security, because I get to avoid deadly traps. I mean, those two verses go together. Verse 28. A king's glory lies in having many subjects. If the prince's people are few, it is his ruin. Now, all this wisdom we've heard in the rest of this chapter helps me to have lots of subjects because people are going to see the wisdom and want to connect with the wisdom. And a prince that has few subjects, probably because he's foolish, and people notice it, and so they move out because they're afraid of a foolish or evil ruler, because it will bear down on them. Verse 28. Being slow to anger goes with great understanding. Being quick-tempered makes folly still worse. Again, that quick temper is going to just make everything bad. We'll see that. But being slow to anger, that I have to be an understanding person to really be patient like that, to not be easily offended. God give me that understanding. A tranquil mind gives health to the body, but envy rots the bones. When I care about this, I'm watching what they're getting, I'm despising them, I'm coveting that. Those things are actually going to start to decay me. They're going to tear me down. So not only, am I destroying the house around me, I'm destroying my own house within. Does that make sense? Right back to verse 1. Because that is going to be foolishness and not wisdom, to envy others instead of focusing on my situation and bettering my own self. The oppressor of the poor insults his maker, but he who is kind to the needy honors him. Why? Because they are God's children, which we already talked about. So as I'm good to his people, he's going to be good to me. The wicked are brought down by their wrongdoing, but the righteous can be confident even at death. Why? Because they're going to see God. And that becomes so important. Wisdom is at rest in a person with discernment, but in fools, it has to call attention to itself. Meaning that a foolish person is going to be loud and wrong. Wise person doesn't have to do that. When it's time to speak, they'll speak, and they'll speak a word well spoken. Righteousness makes a nation great, but sin degrades any people. And that is so important as we're looking at the state of this nation right now, whether we're a godly nation or not. We're getting so far away from God, and it's going to tear down our society from the very foundation. This is what's happening, and we're seeing it. Because it's not just in little pockets scattered throughout the nation. As a nation, we're telling God that we don't want him in this nation. As a nation, we're doing that. in our legislation and our Supreme Court rulings on executive decisions, we are telling God we do not want him ruling this nation. And so the problem is that our nation will no longer be great because it says righteousness makes a nation great. So by kicking God out, we cannot be righteous. We automatically become unrighteous. We open up portals of the demonic and we welcome Satan to come in and teach us how to be more unrighteous effectively. That is going to take the favor and grace of God off of the nation, and then of course we'll cease to be great. Verse 35. A king shows favor to a servant with good sense, but his wrath strikes one who shames him. And the king's going to be anybody in authority. When that king sees that you got some good sense, you're wise, you're discerning, you're going to get favor. You'll get the promotion. You'll get more responsibility. You'll get more wealth. You'll be trusted with greater areas of stewardship, which again is going to be a blessing to you. But when you are not trustworthy, then you're going to bring him shame. And he's going to be angry because that's what his authority is for correction. So now, let's go to Genesis 34. We're going to see a challenging situation happens among Jacob's family. But we want to see Jacob's reaction, which is going to be a righteous reaction. And then we're going to see his son's reaction, which is not a righteous reaction. And all those scriptures we just read are going to be illuminated right before us as we see the two choices of action. Then when we get to Acts chapter 6, we're going to see the disciples handle things righteously. Genesis 34. One time, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Yaakov or Jacob, went out to visit the local girls. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the local ruler, saw her, grabbed her, raped her, and humiliated her. Now, the humiliation was the fact that she was raped. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like he publicly took her out and said, "Ooh, look at this girl." It's not that. The fact that he himself had forced himself on her, that was the humiliation. He took away her honor and replaced it with shame. Verse 3. But actually, he was strongly attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. He fell in love with the girl and tried to win her affection. Now, he did that the way wrong way. He is coming from a godless, idolatrous nation. And he's the prince. So when you're the ruler, you sort of feel like you can do whatever you want to do. Nobody ever opposes you. You're probably spoiled by your parents. You got all this authority, very little wisdom. So what happened is he saw her, he wanted her, he took her. That's what the prince does. The problem is he put himself in a bad position. He was tearing down his own house because now he's in love with her. Now he actually wants her to be his wife, but he's already dishonored and humiliated her. He started off real bad. He's put a wedge there in their relationship, in his relationship with her family. He's he's tearing down what it was that he could have been building up had he done it the right way. Now let's look at this. Verse 4. Shechem spoke with his father Hamor and said, "Get this girl for me. I want her to be my wife." Now again, he still got the normal mentality because she's not a thing. You see what I'm saying? He's telling his daddy, "Go get her, bring her to me," like she's a possession, and he's already treated her like a possession. Wrong mentality. He's tearing down, not building up, because he's operating in folly. He's operating immediately out of his emotions, immediately out of the lust of his flesh, not thinking it through. Even with his authority, it's still important to use wisdom, because our authority is only so good as the people who respect our authority, which he's going to find out in a minute. Not everybody was a part of his kingdom. And Dinah and her family members, they weren't a part of his kingdom, which means they did not respect his authority, especially since he had just abused it by raping her. Watch what happens. Verse 5. When Yaakov heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, or Dinah, depending on the way you pronounce it, his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Yaakov restrained himself until they came. So they were out in the field. He didn't go get them. He didn't send word to them. He waited, let them come in. He's using wisdom. He's like, all right, they're in the middle of working. I'm going to wait till they stop working, try to get them in a good, calm place. Then I'm going to tell them what happened. Because he knew his sons. He knew they were going to be upset. Verse 6. Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Yaakov, Jacob, to speak with him, just as Yaakov's sons were coming in from the field. When they heard what had happened, the men were saddened and were very angry. at the outrage this man had committed against Israel by raping Yaakov's daughter, something that is simply not done. Now, this is a big deal because maybe among the people of Shechem, this was a regular thing. You just want a woman, you take a woman, especially if you're the ruler. But among the children of Israel, God's people, it's not how you treat a woman. That is a sin. It's actually in the laws that you're going to see Moses write later. But at this point, these laws are being passed down orally. So they already know this is against the law. When Moses wrote the law, was it the first time it was introduced? He was writing down laws as they had been passed down orally before. So we see Abraham is tithing, Jacob is tithing. I mean, these things were already in existence. So they knew already, you don't do this. This is not something you do. Now, when Moses wrote the laws down, they became a lot more concrete, they became clearer, and they became universal throughout the children of Israel. But as a family, they had been passing these down already. So they knew this is wrong. They knew it was wrong. Verse 8. The Hamor said to them, my son Shechem's heart is set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife, and intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You will live with us, and the land will be available to you. You'll live, do business, and acquire possessions here. Now, Hamor, the king, is using wisdom. He knows his son has done this wrong. And he could say, give me that girl for my son, the way his son said it to him with his spoiled brat self. Daddy knew better. He's an authority, but he's been a king for a while. He's wise. He knows this could go bad real fast. So what we need to do is try to make peace with them and make this about more than just this girl. You see, it can't just be about her being raped or about him, Shechem, wanting to marry her. It has to be about us having peace with each other as a people. You see what I mean? This becomes very important because you see him using wisdom. His son has already damaged his house, his reputation, his authority, his relationship with this family that's moved in next door. But he's trying to salvage things. He's working to try to build the harvest. He's not trying to break the relationship more. He wants to have a harvest among them. He wants to connect with them. He wants to intermarry with more of them, their daughters, their servants' daughters. He wants to be the trade with them. He's like, this could be a good thing if we don't lose our heads on this one. If we don't get too angry and lose our cool, this can be beneficial for all of us. This is what he's trying to say. Then Shechem said to her father and brothers, only accept me, and I will give whatever you like. I'll pay whatever you tell me. Just let me marry the girl. Now, this is Shechem begging now. His father's been wise, and he's spoken diplomatically. But here's Shechem, again, in his emotions. Just whatever you want, man. Just do it, please. Because he's a brat. He can have whatever he wants as long as he just offers up some money. Now, we see that wealth is going to be a protection for you, usually. But when it comes to these matters, violated women, adultery, rape, stuff like that money does not matter. You can't buy off an offended brother. You can't buy off a husband who has been who's been offended or disrespected by his wife being violated. The scripture talks about that. There is no amount of money you can pay that will get that man to calm down because you violated a woman under his covering, under his protection, in his household. And so Shechem is he's looking at it the wrong way. Verse 13. The sons of Yaakov answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. They said to them, we can't do it because it would be a disgrace to give our sister to someone who hasn't been circumcised. Only on this condition will we consent to you to what you are asking, that you become like us by having every male among you get circumcised. Then we'll give our daughters to you, and we'll take your daughters for ourselves, and we'll live with you and become one people. But if you won't do as we say and get circumcised, then we'll take our daughter and go. What they said seemed fair to Hamor and Shechem, the son of Hamor, and the young man did not put off doing what was asked of him, even though he was the most respected member of his father's family, because he so much wanted Yaakov's daughter, which is very interesting that he was the most respected. I wonder what the other young men were like, but he's the most respected among them. So they listen to him and they say, you guys, we got to get circumcised. Now, I don't know what was going on in that culture, but I'm going to tell you, in today's culture, I don't think men would have been as readily, willing to accept that type of agreement. Exactly. That sounds like a high price to pay for today's men. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why back then that wasn't a big deal. I'm not sure why that was okay with them. But for some reason, everybody agreed. Shechem, which everybody liked, they favored him. They respected him. They said, all right, he's giving us this wise plan. This is going to work. It's going to give peace. We're going to have peace with these people. We're going to get to trade with them because Yaakov was very wealthy. He's got all this stuff. We're going to trade their animals. God blessed everything he touched. So, he had lots going on for him. And so they're hoping that this is going to be a good relationship. So, verse 20. Hamor and Shechem, his son, came to the entrance of their city and spoke with his leading men. These people are peaceful toward us. Therefore, let them live in the land and do business in it. For, as you can see, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives for ourselves. We'll give them our daughters. But the people will consent to live with us and become one people only on this condition, that every male among us gets circumcised as they themselves are circumcised. Won't their cattle and their possessions and all their animals be ours? Only let's consent to do what they ask, and then they will live with us. Everyone going out the city's gate listened to Hamor and Shechem, his son. So every male was circumcised, every one that went out the gate of the city. On the third day after the circumcision, when they were in pain, two of Yaakov's sons, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, they were from the same mother. These are going to be sons of Leah. They took their swords, boldly descended on the city, and slaughtered all the males. They killed Hamor and Shechem, his son, with their swords, took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and left. Now that means that Yaakov had already given Dinah to Shechem as his wife. So she's living with him as his wife at this point. So she's been raped by this man. Now her father is saying, let's restore this union, because now that you've been, touched by this man, nobody else is going to marry you except him, and he wants to marry you. So now you'll be married, live with him, be his wife. We'll all have peace. She's agreed. She's living with this man for 3 days as his wife, and here come her brothers to kill her new husband. And now she can't marry anybody else. They sentenced her to pretty much being alone for the rest of her life, is what happened. Now, it didn't start off as their fault. Shechem, of course, is the first perpetrator. He robbed her of her honor and her choice, because she should have been able to choose her husband. In decision with her father, as they came together, she should have been able to be involved in choosing her suitor, to be able to be courted and respected and treated well, because that's not what he did to her. So he robbed her of that, but then her brothers robbed her of the next best option, which was the plan B, to at least be married to him. Now she can't be married to anyone. And of course, now the culture is different back then. Nowadays, probably a rape victim wouldn't want nothing to do with the man who raped her. She'd be fine if the brothers went and killed them. She would have no problem with it. But Dinah is in a different situation because she's been dishonored, and she would have to live with that for the rest of her life, with that dishonor and that shame. By him marrying her, that was his repentance. It's like he was taking away her dishonor by marrying her. And so now that's all being undone, and she's going to be alone again. They're operating out of their wrath. They're the fools that are giving full vent to their wrath. This is what's happening here. We just read that in Proverbs. So now we see what's happening. They're slaughtering all the males. They took Dinah away. Then the sons of Yaakov entered over the dead bodies of those who've been slaughtered and plundered the city in reprisal for defiling their sister. And here come the other brothers. They're going to take everybody's stuff because, we're getting back at you for raping our sister. And they went a little bit far. All the men are dead. Now they come in to take everything out of the city. They took their flocks, cattle, and donkeys, and everything else, whether in the city or in the field. Everything they owned. Their children and wives, they took captive, and they looted whatever was in the houses. So now all the women of the city are feeling like Dinah felt. They're being captured. The kids are being captured. All their husbands are killed. So they're going to be alone forever, or they're going to become the concubines, probably not the respected wives, but the concubines of these men that just killed their husbands and brothers and fathers. And there's no choice that they have in this matter. They're being treated like possessions, just like Dinah was. So they've not righted a wrong. They returned evil for evil. They've done back to Shechem in great number, exponentially greater, what happened to Dinah. It's even worse.
It was just one person.
It was one person. Now an entire
Oh,
city full of women. And also now children who become orphaned immediately. Right, they're fatherless. They got these wounded mothers who mourning their husbands, but have been given to these new dudes who just killed their fathers and their grandpas and their uncles and any older brothers they had, because anybody who's big enough to pick a sword got killed. You see what I'm saying? And now you're subject to being with these people. So now they're in Jacob's household. All these women and children. They have no fathers and husbands and brothers and grandpas anymore. They're all a part of Jacob's household now. They're all in Jacob's camp. He got to take care of them and all that. And they got all the cattle too, and all the goats to help them. And they got all the plunder, all the gold and silver and all the clothing and all that. But they got all these wounded people now walking with them.
And it's all started because we wanted to know
Yeah. Exactly. It all started because Jacob wanted to marry him. All he wanted to do was marry that one woman. Because the ones who did this, these are Leah's sons.
That's what I noticed.
And you know he said that. You know that came out of his mouth. Your son's always giving me trouble. You know it came out of his mouth. There's a movie called Jacob, and in that movie he actually does say it to her. He was like, your sons. And that's why Joseph and Benjamin become his favorites, because they don't act like this. You know what I'm saying? They're Rachel's sons. They come from the wife who is loved. Now Jacob actually has some part in that too, because the scripture in Proverbs says that the world cannot bear up under four things. And one of the things is a wife who is unloved. And the fact that Leah was unloved, I'm sure it affected her parenting. You know what I'm saying? The fact that she was unloved affected the way she reared these boys, the way she interacted with Jacob, and the fact that Jacob knew she wasn't his first choice was also going to affect how he treated her children too, because he was much better father to Joseph and to Benjamin, which I'm sure affected the fact that they were better sons. You see what I mean? So it's not all Leah's fault. The way we rear our households, you know, that wise woman building her household up, there shouldn't be favorites in our households. There shouldn't be people who are neglected and mistreated in our households, because there are going to be the ones that are going to bring us pain. That child that we didn't pour anything into, they're going to be the troublemaker. They're going to bring us shame, and we're going to shake our finger at them all the time, but in the end, it's because we did not spend the time with them that they needed. It's because we didn't give them what they needed. We didn't sow into them. We didn't love them, and they knew we didn't love them. Even if we said we love them, people know we don't really care about it, and they're going to misbehave just to get your attention, or in spite of you. I mean, there's all types of phenomena that come about when families are not right. You know what I mean? When the love relationship is not right in a family. Now, that wasn't Jacob's fault. That was Laban's fault. He sentenced Leah to that life by tricking Jacob with Leah when he thought it was Rachel, because he was deceived. And who can respond rightly to a lifetime covenant that started out of deception? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't her fault. It wasn't Jacob's fault. But now they're stuck in a lifetime covenant that came out of deception. Like the household was all automatically from the beginning. There was going to be struggles in the house. Because of it. So much jacked up.
It's not a word.
It's not, but it's not word. Because there's a lot to deal with. A lot of family dynamics that are not healthy. And we see them being played out here because Jacob had already made the family decision. These two boys are going to go behind his back, do something different. And then the rest of the sons go, oh yeah, free stuff, go get the stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they go right behind them and plunder and go get the stuff. You see what I mean? So this is like a coup in his family, an uprising. They are rebelling against Jacob's authority. And he had used wisdom to keep peace in the land. He didn't want an all-out war because this was an entire city. And if those dudes weren't all circumcised, they wouldn't have won that fight. They were completely outnumbered. That's why they came up with the plot. Let them get circumcised. And they're using a spiritual ritual, a rite that comes from God. They use that to murder. You know, it's like telling somebody, you really should be praying right now. And while they're praying, you rob their whole house. That is just terrible. That's exactly what they said. You should submit yourself to God and prove it by being circumcised. So these guys are entering into covenant with God. That was the point of the circumcision. And then they go, you know what? You're not worthy. And they go kill all of them. They use the religion to kill those guys.
That's all I was going to say.
Oh.
Like religion. That,
Yep.
I was going to say.
That's what they did. Because they didn't introduce them to God.
That's what
They gave them a religious ritual. But they were supposed to be introducing them to God because that circumcision was a sign of the covenant.
You know what? That probably dragged up all of the mothers and all of the kids. You made my daddy and my uncle do all this for this one woman. They probably hate.
Oh, I'm sure they hate that.
Hate her. And poor thing, she literally did not do anything wrong.
That's right. All these horrible things happen.
Man, because I'm thinking, like, I mean, we don't know, obviously, because we weren't there or anything. But I was like, well, how do you think God reacted to it? Like, when they circumcised themselves, do you think that they still...
That he received them?
That's what I was asking.
Right. That's a good question.
Because technically we don't know because they never submitted themselves to God. They only submitted themselves to the ritual.
To the ritual. But here's the question. Whose fault was that also? The brothers, when they put circumcision out there, they didn't actually present
God,
the gospel. Right, exactly. They
didn't
didn't
tell them why.
The truth of God and really.
Because they didn't tell them about the covenant.
They did.
They just
they said, hey, do what we do.
Because we do it, but they didn't say why they didn't
say why. Because they had a plan. They had a plan. And so we don't know what the spiritual end was for the men of Shechem. We don't know. And yes, the prince was named Shechem, and the whole town was named Shechem. The same name.
He was a very respected son.
He was a very respected son. The whole town was named that name. Exactly. So clearly he was next in line to be king. Clearly. Dinah would have been a princess, a queen eventually. You know what I'm saying? And she could be queen. She could be queen. Now she been dragged. Come on. Stop. What are you crying for? He was horrible. Let's go. You know what I mean? For the whole rest of the trip.
Man, see, they should do a movie about that.
They probably did. Somebody did a movie about it. I guarantee you. But about everything. You look at the story of Dinah. I'm sure it's up there somewhere. But it's heartbreaking for her. The whole situation was terrible because what's happening is a very female issue. Like it's an issue that hits to the core of any woman being violated like this. But everybody who's making decisions in this situation, they're all men. They didn't ask the mothers, the wives, the concubines, the nursemaids, the maid servants. No women were involved in any of this. But it's a very feminine issue. Jacob made a decision for Dinah. That's right. And then the brothers made a decision to go kill up everybody. Nobody asked Dinah this whole time. Nobody asked her mom. Are you all right? What can we do for you? Nothing. The whole time, men are making all these choices that, again, it's a very feminine issue. It's something that they could never understand back in this culture. Because men weren't being raped back here during this time. Not generally speaking, unless you were Sodom. It wasn't happening. So that's why that was such a big deal, because that didn't happen back then. That just did not occur. So they don't even understand possibly what she could be going through. There's no concept in their mind of what this is doing in her own heart, or what she could possibly want, or what healing she might need. None of that. And they didn't ask any of the women, so they can't get a perspective on it. They're all making the decision that they think is right in their own minds. And the challenge of this is that there was no consensus of the house. The house is divided. And Yeshua said a house divided against itself can't stand. And this is why we're seeing this trouble here, because it's divided. Jacob believed in God, and he was operating out of godly character. He's like, this is a bad situation. Let's make the best of it. As much as it depends on me, I'm going to go for peace. He's trying to do what he can and lead his household the right way. When his son suggested the circumcision, that wasn't even Jacob's idea. When his son suggested it, he honored what his son said. He didn't shut them down. He didn't say, you guys, I'm talking, be quiet. Nothing. He knew they were hurting. He said, okay, at least they're trying to be reasonable. I'm going to let them speak. But in honoring them, they dishonored him because they were being manipulative. And he did not have to let them speak. He could have shut them down. He could have said, be quiet. This is not about you. You don't get to say, I'm the father here. He did not have to do that, but he let them speak. He honored what they said because the decision was his. You see what I'm saying? He honored it, and then look what happened. It just backfires on him.
I feel like that would be the trait of his grandfather. Yeah, that's down through them, tricking their father. All over.
It was Jacob who tricked the father. It was Jacob himself that tricked the father. And so I guarantee you, remember Jacob tricked Isaac to get the blessing that you're talking about?
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about their grandfather.
Abraham?
No.
Their grandfather.
Leah's father.
Leah's father is Jacob. His father was Isaac.
No, the one man worked for 7 years.
Laban. Their other grandfather. Yes, he was. He was their grandfather.
Yes. Like, sorry.
Gotcha. So they're saying they're being like Laban. They're carrying that trickery
and
like Laban.
Again. And that's what I'm saying.
And it's showing up.
Again.
Generation. Gotcha. I understand that. I forgot he was their grandfather. I forgot they had a maternal grandfather. Yes. Exactly. We see that showing up. And this is one of the things that Jacob, the problem Jacob has with Leah's sons, because you're going to see these things showing up in Leah's sons. They do all types of stuff they should not do. But God is going to redeem them. He's going to redeem Levi, he's going to redeem Judah. They're all Leah's sons. You know what I'm saying? So bless God for them. Look at what Jacob has to do. Verse 30. But Yaakov, Jacob said to Shimon and Levi, you have caused me trouble. When we're talking about when trouble arises, when problems arise, you caused me trouble by making me stink in the opinion of the local inhabitants. The Canaani are going to be the Canaanites, and the Perizzi or the Perizzites. Since I don't have many people, they'll align themselves together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household. They replied, should we have let our sister be treated like a whore? Now, the time to say that would have been in the tent before they killed everybody. They should have been honest with their father. Remember, the truthful witness tells the truth at all times. They should have been honest with their father about the fact that they were still angry about that and that they were not okay with her being sent to his household as a wife. They were not okay with making a treaty with these people because it was like we were saying it's okay to rape our sister. He would have understood that if they had that conversation with him. He could have addressed it. He could have made them feel better about it. He could have even said, now, what do you guys think we should do? Aside from killing everybody, what do you think we should do so that they can actually pay some restitution for what they did to her? Maybe they would have had to give a lot of cattle and goats. Maybe they would have had to give some daughters to these men in exchange. I don't know. But the point is, they could have gotten justice in an amicable way that would not have destroyed an entire town that could have been believers. They could have become Israel in a better way. Now, the wives and children are all now Israel, but the men are dead. You see what I'm saying? That could have been avoided, where a whole people group could have been brought in to the kingdom and learned the truth and kept God's ways. It's very possible that could have happened, but we don't know. It's not an option because they slaughtered them all. And now they all have blood on their hands because these men were in the place of circumcision. There was peace made between them. So this is going to be cold blood. This is premeditated, cold-blooded murder. This is not justice. It's murder in cold blood. And that is the sin that has now been brought on the household of Jacob. And this is why Jacob is afraid that the people around them will come and overtake them. Not that he thinks that God won't be there, but he knows the consequence of sin. We just murdered an entire town of people. We deserve to be wiped out. And if God is a God of justice, he can do that. He can let them come and just wipe us out because of what you guys just did. We deserve to have exactly done back to us what we just did to them. Yes. How?
Because we were talking about, of course, I know he already knew it was going to happen. And we were talking about the blood and having that mother in his heart.
Oh, he was telling them, yes, to check that murder in his heart. Exactly, because sin is crouching at your door, but you must master it. Exactly. He knew it was in their heart. They could have repented. They chose not to. They fed that murderous anger. And we talked about it in Proverbs. That was foolish of them. Why? Because they're tearing down their own house. Now all of them are going to have to leave. They're all going to have to move. They're in a nice place. They're all going to have to move. And during this time, Rachel is pregnant. And she's going to die. And she gives birth. And many believe that it was because of this move, because they had to move in haste, that caused her to die during childbirth, because she's actually going to give birth on the road. She's going to give birth while they're moving. They're packing up and moving. She's going to go into labor. And she's going to die. That's next week. But the point is that brought trouble on them. That brought trouble to Jacob. This is, of course, his favorite wife, the one he worked for 14 years for. She's going to be taken from him. The place where they are was lush and fruitful. It was great pasture land. Taken from them. The safety and security that they felt where they were. Taken from them. It's important that we see that anger, that furious, reckless anger, it caused a lot of pain. And they didn't have to deal with that pain. Jacob had to deal with it as the leader and the responsible party. That's why it's important that we discipline our children and that we're responsible for our households by instilling into the people in our households the values that we hold. Because if they don't hold the values that we hold in our own households, the trouble we're trying to avoid will be brought on us by other people in our households. So that's why it's important that there is oneness in a household, that is agreement. We don't have to be the exact same person or do things the same way, but with regard to morals and standards and values, there must be agreement. Because otherwise we will bring trouble on each other. And when it's time to deal with trouble, because trouble's going to come, trouble always comes, problems will arise. That's what we're talking about today. When that happens, there will not be agreement as to how to deal with the problems. Now we're going to Acts chapter 6, because we're going to see believers. They're going to have challenges. They're going to have a challenge in particular, and they're going to agree, and they're going to deal with it. Because the Spirit of the living God is within them, giving them wisdom, giving them revelation, and His Spirit is going to make clear to them what they should do. They're going to all do it, all agree to it. It's going to work out beautifully. Acts chapter 6. Around this time, when the number of Talmudim or disciples was growing, the Greek-speaking Jews began complaining against those who spoke Hebrew that their widows were being overlooked in the daily distribution. That's going to be two different cultural groups of Jews. There's a longer teaching behind that, which I won't go into tonight, but there's a divide between them. Those that were Greek speaking, they probably felt like it was on purpose. Y'all aren't giving our widows the food on purpose. You're just giving it to the Hebrew speaking Jewish widows. So this has to be addressed because it's not just an administrative thing. There's a potential for a lot of offenses to happen here. For one group to feel left out of this distribution and even left out of the group of believers if this is not solved and quickly. So the 12 called a general meeting of the Talmudim, the disciples, and said, "It isn't appropriate that we should neglect the word of God in order to serve tables. Brothers, choose 7 men from among yourselves who are known to be full of the Spirit and wisdom. We will appoint them to be in charge of this important matter, but we ourselves will give full attention to praying and to serving the word." So they're not going to allow themselves to be distracted by this little skirmish, but they're not ignoring it either. They came together, they made a decision, and when the apostles made a decision, the people adhered to it. The spiritual authority was in place and intact. Nobody revolts against the decision like we see in Jacob's household. There was a revolt against his decision. They did not obey, they did not submit. And Jacob didn't punish them. There was no punish for Simeon and Levi when they did that. Nothing happened. And it's possible that he had been leading them that way the whole time, which is why they figured they could come against him. But the disciples, they just saw in chapter 5, Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead. So they know we don't need to play around. This spiritual authority is real and not submitting to it brings consequences. So we need to go ahead and do what God is telling us to do through the apostles. Let's go ahead and submit and all agree because the spiritual authority is intact. And God himself does that. We're filled with his Spirit and we have faith. We do what he tells us to do, even when it comes to correction. We will hear him to discipline people in our lives, in our families, in our ministries. This can't keep going on. We've got to correct that. We've got to check that. We've got to teach in this area. We've got to mature people in this area. It's going to be a problem. The Holy Spirit is not just going to tell us the really, good feeling things. He's not just going to tell us the woo-woos. He's going to tell us when correction is necessary. And if we reject that out of guilt, or shame, or just not walking in our boldness and our authority, or procrastination because we don't really want to address having to discipline people, then our authority is not going to be established. And when we really need people to listen to us, they won't. So that wisdom is going to require that I also discipline myself, as in that self-discipline, but also that I enforce God's standards and the people around me to make sure that things just aren't allowed to run around. Because one day it will come back to bite you. And so the wise woman is building her house up when she instills moral values and she disciplines her children. She's building it up. When the foolish woman does not discipline her children, she refuses to discipline her children, she's going to be in a situation where she's going to need them to do exactly what she says to do. And they're going to challenge her. And oftentimes it's going to be to their own detriment. And if they won't come when she calls, and they'll get hit by the car. Or they won't leave the building when she says leave, and they'll burn down with the building because they're not listening to mommy and they want to do something else. But when that authority has been in place, when you say move, they move. And it helps them because they need that instruction. It's hard to discipline. It's hard to correct. Believe me, it's one of my least favorite things. Whether it's in my family or in my ministry, it doesn't matter. I don't like having to do it. But you better believe I do it, because I know that to not do it is foolish. It opens the door for the enemy to come in and do whatever he wants. Because without that spiritual authority in place, the people throw off all restraint, they do whatever seems fit to them, and everybody has a different standard, and there can never be agreement. That is unwise. That was not the case with the early ecclesia. That was not the case with the believers. Their spiritual authority was firmly established by themselves, but even more so by God, because we see that he confirmed the word spoken out of Peter's mouth when Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead. Peter didn't say drop dead. Peter said, how could you agree to test the spirit like this? Bam, the Lord himself enforced the discipline. And so when we're in line with him and full of his spirit, he will do that. He said, touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. When people get out of line, the Lord himself will address it, especially in ministry situations, if we allow him to. Moses and Aaron, he put the censers out there. Go ahead, offer God some incense. Let's see who he accepts. The Lord burned up everybody else to show that Moses and Aaron were the ones that were chosen. Go ahead, you all get a stick, and we'll see what happens. Aaron's stick, which was cut off, starts to blossom right in front of their eyes. And then the Lord does what he needs to do. Korah's rebellion, the ground opens up, and it swallows everybody that rebelled against Moses. So God himself instills the discipline. And so he can do what he needs to do, how he needs to do it. And we let God do it because he is God. In our own households, we function like God. The father, the mother, we're operating the way God wants us to operate. We're functioning the way he wants us to operate. And we're enacting his discipline so that our children will respect us and they'll grow up to respect God. It becomes very important that that happens. Now, let's continue. Verse 5. What they said was agreeable to the whole gathering. Remember I told you they were all in agreement. Those, they chose Stephen, a man full of faith, and the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Holy Spirit, Philip, Procorius, Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, and Nicholas, who was a proselyte from Antioch. I mean, he was a Gentile. They presented these men to the emissaries, who prayed and laid their hands on them. So the word of God continued to spread. The number of Talmudim and Yerushalayim increased rapidly, and a large crowd of Kohanim priests were becoming obedient to the faith. Remember, I told you they were going to come in. Because these disciples continued, the emissaries, the apostles continued to teach, continued to preach. They did not stop. They were bold. They were on fire. They were well versed in scripture because the Holy Spirit had been downloading it. Even the priests, the learned, the religious leaders, now they're coming in. We're seeing a harvest. The stall is not empty. It's not kept clean. They don't tell the priest, no, you can't come in because you used to oppose us. Everybody's being welcomed, and a great harvest is coming in. Now, look at verse 8. We're about to see more problems arise. Now, Stephen, full of grace and power, performed great miracles and signs among the people. But opposition arose from members of the synagogue of the freed slaves, as it was called, composed of Syrians, Alexandrians, and people from Cilicia and the province of Asia. They argued with Stephen, but they could not stand up against his wisdom or the spirit by which he spoke. Remember, the spirit is going to be very important. His wisdom is coming forth because of the spirit. This all lines up with Proverbs that we're talking about. The challenge is wicked people hate that wisdom because that wisdom proves them foolish. It reveals their folly when God's wisdom comes forward. And so now we're seeing a plot against Stephen because the folly of these foolish unbelievers, they're all Jews. Everybody in this situation is a Jew. Even a Hebrew-speaking Jew or Greek-speaking Jew, they're all Jews, except that proselyte that we just saw, whose name is Nicholas. Nicholas is the only non-Jew. Everybody else here is Jewish. And so they're in the synagogue, and he's speaking about Yeshua. Stephen is preaching about Yeshua. He's evangelizing. He's sharing the truth. And these guys can't stand up to it because he's using the scripture, the Tanakh, the Old Testament, to prove that Yeshua is the Messiah, and they can't, there's nothing they can say. But it's infuriating them because they're a mocker. So they're trying to mock what he's saying. They're trying to tear down that argument bit by bit. We just saw that in Proverbs, but they're not able to do it. So they're continuing to be furious, and they're giving full vent to their anger at this point. Remember, it's still a foolish act. They're continuing in their folly. But for the believers, this is going to cause problems. So it says, verse 11, So they secretly persuaded some men to allege. We heard him speak blasphemously against Moshe and against God. That's going to be a false witness. A false witness always speaks lies. We just read that in Proverbs. So they went and got some people who they knew were liars to say this, because they're like, look, you already got that sin on your conscience anyway, so just do this for us. They stirred up the people as well as the elders and the Torah teachers. So they came and arrested him and led him before the Sanhedrin. There they set up false witnesses who said, this man never stopped speaking against this holy place and against the Torah. For we have heard him say that Yeshua from Nazareth will destroy this place and will change the customs Moshe handed down to us. Now Yeshua himself said he didn't come to abolish the Torah or the prophets, but to fulfill it. That was in Matthew chapter 5. So clearly they're lying, because Yeshua didn't say that, and Stephen wouldn't misquote him like that. Stephen's not pronouncing anything like that. Instead, they just want to discredit him because they have not been able to break down his arguments. They're not interested in learning. Remember, I told you those foolish mockers are horrible students. They don't know what in the world to do with somebody who has a great argument that they don't want to listen to. Instead of humbling themselves and going, wow, he's actually right, because he keeps proving us wrong. Maybe we should just listen. Now they're trying to tear him down a different way because they weren't able to tear down his argument. Verse 15. Everyone sitting in the Sanhedrin stared at Stephen and saw that his face was like the face of an angel. And you see here that Stephen is rightly addressing this problem that's arising. He doesn't have anger in his face, so it's not in his heart, because that heart is going to reveal us, the face is going to reveal us in our heart. He has the face of an angel, meaning that he has not grieved God's spirit by becoming vengeful or wanting to return evil for good. He's not thinking how much he hates these guys while he's standing there, because that would have grieved God's spirit and he wouldn't have looked like an angel. But his face is glowing with the spirit of the living God. Like, they're looking at him, and people who are not filled with his rage and folly are going, how can he be mad at this guy? He looks like an angel. He's totally just looking divine right now. He's clearly filled with the spirit of God. What's wrong with these guys? How could they possibly be mad at him? I'm looking at this guy, and clearly he's from God. I mean, everybody's seeing it. It's visible, but the fool is never going to give up his folly. He is committed to the foolishness. And so they're committed to this foolishness, but Stephen, instead of returning folly for folly and evil for evil, he is continuing to walk in the spirit of the living God. And we'll see next week when we look at chapter 7, which is his long sermon. It's a very interesting and even somewhat controversial sermon if you look at it. Some of it messed me up, I'm going to tell you. It's noteworthy. And so we'll have a good time looking at that next week. I'm actually excited about it. I love Stephen's sermon. But I want you to take note of his posture, his demeanor. He's secure. He's believing in God. He has an eternal hope. He's not worried about these guys at all. And they are going to kill him. You ever read ahead? That's what's going to happen. They're going to stone him down. And even then, he's looking right at heaven. He's looking up. He sees Yeshua. I mean, it's just beautiful. He maintains that spirit within him. He does not allow their evil to change him. And that's something all of us can shoot for. Surely we don't all do it at all times. He probably didn't do it all the time. But at this moment, God gave him the grace to do exactly what needed to be done, because he was the first martyr up to this point that no one has died for the faith. They've been whipped and persecuted and jailed. No one's been killed. He's the first to be killed, and it's like he's setting a model, because he's going to die in this wonderful grace and full of the Spirit of God that reminds them of Yeshua, how Yeshua did. And as he does that, it's setting a standard for everybody else, that they would know this too is an act of worship. I'm just doing what God would have me do, and he is going to be my vindicator. I'm not going to take vengeance into my own hands. I'm going to let God himself use me, and let that spirit of wisdom continue to manifest on my face and on my lips, because he's going to preach it in me. So I want to just encourage you, not that I always do it, not that any of us always does it, but to try, to seek God, to try to demonstrate his character when problems arise. The only way we can demonstrate God's character is to be connected with him. I can't be like God when I don't know God. I can say, oh, he's the creator of this. He sits on high and looks down low. We know a lot of nice key phrases to say about him. But if I don't really know him, I don't know how he would behave in certain situations, especially if that situation is not explicitly written in the Bible. I won't know how God would handle it. But if I'm connected to him through his spirit, and I pray and I read the word daily and I worship him and I'm interacting with him through meditation, I'm just enjoying God's presence regularly, then I know what He would do. And not only that, He will fill me with the grace that I need to actually do it when problems arise. It's my prayer for myself. It's also my prayer for you, that we will be able to do that. Keep me in prayer as I pray for you as well. That when problems arise, as they will surely will, that we'll be able to demonstrate the character of God. Be blessed, and I'll see you next week.